What's up, guys? We're back with a one-piece deck profile fresh off of the Kingdoms of Intrigue pre-release. Pre-release winner, first place. So we got the box and promos and all that stuff, and we did it with Nami Mill. So I wanted to do a quick deck profile and then showcase what I might change with some of the new cards. Not too many changes, I think. But we'll get right into the profile. Of course, Nami, she has the win condition where if you deck out, you don't lose the game. Instead, you win. And what we do is we have a very defensive deck that generally mills cards or searches and adds cards to our hands. So one of our main searchers is, of course, the one-drop Buggy, where he looks at the top 5 and adds an Impel Down card to your hand, and then you put them on the bottom of the deck in any order. We also facilitate that with Kaya, where she draws 2 and then you discard 2 from your hand. We have cards that mitigate that discard cost. Mr. 1, Das Bones, where on play you get a 1-cost event back from your trash to your hand. And of course, the main part of the deck, the 5-drop Zeph, where if he does damage while you have a Dawn on him, you trash 7 from the top of your deck. This is pretty much the main way you attack and win the game, basically. The rest of the deck is events, and we usually use events with good triggers. So for example, we have 2 copies of Arabesque Brickfest, where the trigger is the same as the actual main, where you return up to 1 character with a cost of 4 or less to the owner's hand. So it's 2 cost removal to get rid of like blockers and stuff. 3 copies of Deathwink for the counter. We generally try to save these for the late game when we're defending the last bit of life to try to deck ourselves out. Desert Spotter lets us rearrange the top 3 of our deck so we can control our draws and sort of, anticipate what we're going to get over the next couple of turns. Gum Giant Gavel. We trash 1 from our hand and our leader gets 4k, and then we trash 2 from the top of the deck. This is a great way to mill cheap 1-cost card that we usually wind up getting back with that Mr. Daz. 2 copies of Gum Rain. You trash 1 card from your hand, and your leader or character card gets plus 3k power during the battle. It also has a really good trigger effect where you can return a character that will cost 2 or less to the owner's hand, and that can be even your own 1-drop. So like if they hit this card, if they hit the overheat, you can return like a Kaya back to your hand if you used her to summon her. 4 copies of Impel Down All-Stars. A lot of people always seem to wonder why Nami decks play this deck, even though it's not an Impel Down leader. For the most part, this card is basically the one that we use to facilitate the discard, because we don't care about it. So it's an easy card to discard for effects like Kaya, or even trash it with Gum Giant Gavel. And then if you need more copies of it, you can always get it back with Mr. Da, since it is a 1-drop event card. But what's really good about it is if it's hit off your trigger, you draw 2 cards. So drawing cards is good, and that's what we like to do in this deck. And then we have 3 copies of Level of Metal. So this is another card that we save for the end, when we're trying to take the last bits of our cards out of our deck. We have Love Mellow, where our leader or one of our characters gains 4k during this battle, and then draw 1 card if you have 3 cards or less in your hand. So you're trashing cards, and you help facilitate this particular card. 2 copies of Overheat. Your leader or one of your characters gains 4,000 power during the battle, and then you can return 1 character with a cost of 3 or less to the owner's hand. Or sometimes that can be your own weenies or even like their own little blockers if they manage to hit their card. And then it's also got a good trigger to return 1 card with a cost 4 or less to the owner's hand. Super staple in this deck, Sanji's Pilaf. Draw 2 cards. Pot of Greed is good, and this card is basically Pot of Greed, whether you activate it on the main or if it's hit off of a trigger. And I like to have some type of removal, so I play 2 copies of 3,000 Worlds. We can place 1 character with a cost of 5 or less to the bottom of the owner's deck, and if it's hit as a trigger, you basically can bounce a 3 or less to the bottom of the owner's deck. And then the last 4 cards are, of course, Usopp's Rubber Band of Doom. This is a quick and easy 2k that also trashes 1 from the top of our deck. There's also a 1-cost event that can be brought back with Mr. Dice over here. So that's the deck list. Nami Mill won our pre-release today, and it was cool. I basically sat back and decked myself out across 4 games, and it was a fun deck, and it was cool to play. As far as like any changes with the new set, the only card I really do like is the 1-drop Apis, because it is a 2000 power counter. But I do also kind of like the search effect because it lets you look at the top 5 for East Blue card and add it to your hand. So it's a nice way to basically search for the Zeph. But I don't know how many copies I'm going to play. I think if anything, if I would change everything, I would probably take the 2 copies of Gum Gum Rain and replace it with 2 copies of this. So like the new list might just be that. And go from there, or maybe even the new 6-cost version of this that's in the set. We'll see if we get them in that box. But yeah, there you have it. Nami Mill, first place. Let me know what you think. Get those likes. Subscribe if you haven't already. And we'll be back with more content, more Dragon Ball Super content, more One Piece content, and maybe even some Digimon. I'll catch you guys then.